In the British science fiction programme Doctor Who, time travel is perhaps the most important plot device which is integral to the adventures of the titular character, except in the 70s. As a result of time travel, the Doctor's adventures take place out of order throughout history, leading to the fascinating paradox of future versions of the Doctor existing before the past one, and vice versa. And thus, the idea of this video is born, going through the entire history of the universe presented in the show and listing, or making our best guess, at the order of every on-screen event portrayed in Doctor Who. It would take me several hours to do all of Doctor Who's continuity, including the classic series, so this video includes everything we have seen on-screen after the Doctor Who movie and before the upcoming 60th anniversary specials. However, because the show includes numerous alternate timelines and moments implied to take place outside the space-time continuum, there are certain episodes and plotlines I have not added to this timeline, including the Time War, Rose Tyler's alternate universe, and practically everything about the 13th Doctor's excursions with the Flux and Division. A number of these dates are also complete speculation on my part, placed where they are based on clues and technology given in either the episode, potential episode notes, or the Doctor Who fandom wiki. If you feel you have enough evidence to place these events in a specific year on the timeline, or separate from where I have them, please let me know in the comments below. Like my Black Mirror timeline, I do intend to update this video each year as new episodes come out, and adding the classic series is not off the table, so stay tuned for updates or corrections to things I may have missed in the future. Also, I'm not English and this accent is completely fake, so feel free to rip it to shreds in the comments. Without further ado, this is the nearly entire linear timeline of Doctor Who. We begin 13 billion years ago. The 11th Doctor and Amy Pond land on the oldest known planet in the universe, hoping to translate the oldest known message written into the side of a cliff face. To the Doctor's dismay, the message was in fact written by River Song, who leaves coordinates leading them to 2nd century Roman Britain. 1340 BC. Having saved Egypt from giant alien locusts, the 11th Doctor is forced by Queen Nefertiti to bring her along to answer an earthly distress signal from the 24th century. 79 AD. Attempting to land in Rome, the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble arrive in Pompeii just before the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Discovering the city is under the control of the alien pyroviles, who are using the volcano to convert the religious community and take over the planet, the Doctor realizes the only way to destroy the pyroviles will trigger the Vesuvian eruption. Weighing the options, he chooses the lesser of two evils and triggers Vesuvius, destroying Pompeii. Distraught by the loss of life, Donna successfully convinces him to save a single family from the city. 102. The 11th Doctor and Amy land in Roman Britain, where they find River Song impersonating the deceased Cleopatra, who shows the Doctor the Van Gogh TARDIS painting and warns him about the legendary Pandorica, which they deduce is buried under Stonehenge. The trio travel to the Pandorica, where they are ambushed by a conglomerate of the Doctor's enemies, including a team of Autons featuring a resurrected Rory Williams, who Amy does not remember. The Doctor is captured by the conglomerate, and they reveal the Pandorica to be a prison structure specifically designed to imprison the Doctor. He is trapped within, but as the universe slowly falls apart due to the later destruction of the TARDIS, the conglomerate begins to disappear themselves. A future version of the Doctor appears to the Auton Rory, who fails to stop his programming from shooting and killing Amy. Using the Doctor's future sonic screwdriver, Rory opens the Pandorica and replaces the Doctor with Amy, trusting the Pandorica will keep her alive. The Doctor tasks Rory with watching over the Pandorica for the next 2 millennia, as the Doctor uses a vortex manipulator to jump to 1996. 120. The 12th Doctor, Bill and Nardole land in Scotland to investigate the disappearance of the 9th Roman Legion. They separately find the remnants of both the Legion and the Pict tribes, fighting against an alien creature capable of draining living creatures of sunlight, and the Doctor traces the creature's origin to a dimensional portal built into a Pict cairn. Though the Doctor offers to protect the portal for temporal eternity, the job is undertaken by the remaining Legion and Picts, leading to their collective disappearance. 800s. A single Dalek is defeated by a team of warring clans, who divide the corpse into 3 pieces and bury it across the planet. The 12th Doctor and Clara inadvertently land the TARDIS in a Viking camp, and are swiftly captured and returned to their home village. The village is purged of its warriors by an alien squadron called the Maya, who harvest the testosterone of various species throughout the universe. The Maya are taunted by a Viking girl named Ashilda, and after the Doctor fails to prepare the remaining villagers for battle, collaborates with Ashilda to exaggerate their offense against the Maya, forcing them to retreat. Ashilda is killed in the chaos, but the Doctor uses a healing device from within a captured Maya suit of armor to resuscitate her, inadvertently making her immortal. 1050. Missy is captured and set to be executed for war crimes on the planet Carnathan. The Doctor, tasked as the executioner, intentionally botches the execution before vowing to keep watch over an imprisoned Missy for the next 1,000 years. 1138. Missy and Clara jump to Norman, Essex to witness the 12th Doctor living out his presumed final days partying with local peasants. Their reunion is interrupted by Colony Sarf, who captures the trio to present them to Davros on Skaro. 1190. The 12th Doctor and Clara land in Nottingham with the goal of finding the legendary Robin Hood. Finding the man and his band of merry men, they also discover the locality terrorized by extraterrestrial androids under the command of the Sheriff. Intent on using their spaceship technology to enslave the planet, the Sheriff of Nottingham is warned by the Doctor that the ship's engines are too damaged to work properly once rebuilt, and the Doctor and Robin team up to pilot the ship far enough away from the Earth's surface to keep the population below safe from the impending explosion. 1207. In isolation in Cumbria, the 11th Doctor receives a call on the TARDIS phone from Clara Oswald, who asks him for help connecting to the internet. Believing her to be the original form of the girl he's been looking for, he travels to 2013 to find her. 1380. The 13th Doctor lands in Aleppo to investigate a distress call received by the TARDIS. In a local mental hospital, she saves Tahira, the sole survivor of an attack by an invisible creature, before returning to the 21st century to warn her companions. Realizing Tahira's nightmares are her own creation, the Doctor later lures Zelin and Rakaya back to Aleppo before trapping the gods back in their space prison. 1500. The 12th Doctor arrives on Skaro in time to witness a young Davros trapped within a minefield. He offers to help the child escape, but reneges this offer upon realizing who Davros is. A future version of the Doctor arrives to fulfill this offer, hoping to instill Davros, and therefore the Daleks, with a sense of mercy. 1533. The 13th Doctor, Dan, and Yaz arrive in China to witness a sea devil betray the legendary sailor Ji Hun before returning to 1807. 1562. In Elizabethan England, the 10th Doctor investigates a potential Zygon invasion under the guise of seducing Queen Elizabeth I. Incorrectly identifying her as a Zygon, he successfully proposes to her before realizing the Zygon in question was posing as the Queen's horse. In a nearby forest, the Doctor and now 2 queens are met by a time vortex, from which the 11th and War Doctors emerge from their respective time periods. The 3 are arrested by the real Queen, who poses as her duplicate to learn more about the Zygon plan. They are rescued from the Tower of London by Clara Oswald, and after the Zygons place themselves in stasis to reactivate their invasion in the future, the 10th Doctor marries Queen Elizabeth before abandoning her. 1580. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory land in Venice, where they investigate the disappearance of multiple girls at the prestigious Calvieri Institute. They discover the school's headmistress, Signora Rossana, has been using the girls to feed an army of her children residing in the Venetian canals, and she herself is an amphibious alien called the Saturnine, who fled to Earth to escape the silence. The Doctor thwarts her plan to flood Venice, and Rosanna sacrifices herself to her children to prolong their inevitable starvation. 1599. The 10th Doctor and Martha Jones arrive in Elizabethan London, where they witness a performance of Love's Labour's Lost at the Globe Theatre. Meeting Shakespeare himself, they find his writing of the sequel sabotaged by an alien race called the Carrionites, who use magic-like psychoscience in an attempt to free the rest of their kind from dimensional imprisonment. At the performance of Love's Labour's Won, the Doctor and Martha interrupt the Carrionites' recitation and banish the remaining individuals while the written play itself is lost forever. After the commotion, the Doctor is confronted by a disgruntled Queen Elizabeth, and he and Martha are chased back to the TARDIS. 1612. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham land in Lancashire and witness a witch hunt resulting in the death of an elderly woman. Attempting to usurp Magistrate Becca Savage by declaring herself Witchfinder General, the Doctor is herself usurped by King James I, who arrives to witness the witch hunt himself. The Doctor discovers the area surrounding the village infested with alien Morax soil, which reanimates the bodies of the recently deceased to build an army for its intended possessed king. Becca reveals herself to be already infected, though James manages to kill her and force the Morax to leave the planet before he can be possessed himself. 1651. The 12th Doctor arrives in London to investigate a missing alien artifact known as the Eye of Hades. He crosses paths with the immortal Ashilda, also seeking the Eye, who has now forgotten her original name and life, simply going under the alias Lady Me. The pair capture the Eye, but Lady Me turns on the Doctor and gives the Eye to Leandro, an alien feline seeking to return his kind through a portal activated by the Eye's power. Leandro turns on Lady Me and reveals his escape to instead be an invasion of Earth. Using the same healing device which turned Lady Mi immortal, the Doctor revives the corpse used to activate the eye, stopping the portal and sending Leandro to be sentenced by his power-hungry species. The Doctor leaves Lady Mi behind, who announces her intention to watch and judge the Doctor's interventions through time. 1699. The 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory land aboard the pirate ship Fancy, where the crew are plagued by a siren apparition which feeds on any type of injury. After Rory is injured and disappears at the hands of the siren, the Doctor deduces that the siren is actually an automated alien nurse, whose ship has dimensionally locked onto the Fancy after its crew were all killed by human disease. Agreeing to take over the care of Rory, the siren allows Amy and the Doctor to return him to the TARDIS, where they revive him from drowning while leaving the pirate crew behind. 1727. The 10th Doctor arrives in the bedroom of Jean-Antoinette Pesson by way of a time window from the 51st century, rescuing her from a clockwork robot intent on harvesting her body parts to repair its broken ship, before returning to the 51st century for reinforcements to keep her safe, though he never returns. 1740. The 10th Doctor returns to Jean-Antoinette Pesson, though fails to realize he is over a decade late. Realizing her imaginary friend was all along real, she kisses him before revealing to him her identity as the eventual mistress of Louis XV, the Madame de Pompadour. 1744. The 10th Doctor visits the Madame de Pompadour shortly before her introduction to Louis XV. 1745. The Madame de Pompadour is witnessed through a time window by the 10th Doctor, Rose and Mickey, fighting off a clockwork robot, learning the truth of why they are so intent on watching her, in the timetable counting down to her period of readiness for their harvesting of her body parts. The Doctor arrives to analyze her memories, but she instead analyzes the Doctor's memories, learning of his loneliness and furthering her affection and sympathy for him before inviting him to dance. 1753. The Madame de Pompadour is approached by Rose Tyler, who informs her of an impending robot attack in 5 years' time. She follows Rose onto the ship, but horrified upon hearing her own future screams, goes back to her own present to wait out the attack in real time. 1758. Clockwork robots attack the birthday party of the Madame de Pompadour. She refuses to follow them onto their ship, but before they are able to harvest her on the spot, she and the fellow guests are rescued by the 10th Doctor, who destroys his returning portal to the 51st century in order to destroy the robots themselves. He intends to remain with the Madame de Pompadour for the rest of her life, but upon discovering a replica of her childhood fireplace in her current bedroom, is able to return home, promising to return briefly, though due to the ship's time dilation, he never does. 1764. The 10th Doctor returns to Versailles 6 years later than intended, discovering the Madame de Pompadour having just recently died. He converses with Louis XV, who declares the Doctor as the only man she ever truly loved. 1800. The 12th Doctor, Clara and Missy, are transported to a post-war Skaro by Colony Soth, where Davros seeks to take advantage of the Doctor's sympathy and resurrect his dwindling life force with Time Lord regeneration energy. The plan backfires when the Doctor resurrects the decaying Daleks who inhabit the planet's sewer system, who take revenge on Davros and consume him and the other living Daleks, allowing the Doctor and Clara to escape. 1807. The 13th Doctor, Dan and Yaz arrive in China to investigate the murder of Ying Qi's father by a Sea Devil prisoner named Marcissus, who seeks a legendary gem to flood the Earth's surface entirely. Teaming up with Pirate Queen Madame Ching and the legendary Ji Hun, who's been kept as a time prisoner by the Sea Devils, the trio and Ying Qi are able to thwart the Sea Devil's plan after Ji Hun sacrifices himself to destroy the Sea Devil ship. 1814. The 12th Doctor and Bill Potts accidentally land in London for the last Great Frost Fair, and discover a massive alien sea creature living below the Thames. Learning the monster is controlled by the wealthy Lord Sutcliffe, who employs orphans to trick bystanders onto loose ice for the monster to feed, the Doctor tricks Sutcliffe onto the ice himself before freeing the monster, causing Sutcliffe to drown, and forging possession of Sutcliffe's estate to the remaining orphans. 1816. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham arrive in Switzerland to witness Mary Shelley write Frankenstein. Discovering Percy Shelley missing and the house seemingly haunted, the Doctor realizes the house is shielding its true form from an external force, resulting in missing rooms, doors, and staircases seemingly inexplicable to the naked eye. They find Percy, who reveals himself as the host of the Cyberium, a liquid program containing the evolutionary history and future of the Cybermen, and the external force is revealed to be the prophesied lone Cyberman, who breaks into the house and threatens Shelley. Choosing to save Shelley rather than the future of humanity, the Doctor awards the Cyberman the Cyberium, threatening the distant future of the human race. 1834. The 13th Doctor arrives with Ada Lovelace to a technology exhibition in London, where the Doctor is able to piece together a correlation between a computer figurine at the home of Charles Babbage and an identical figure found at Daniel Barton's office in 2020. 1842. A young Walter Simeon is lured by the Great Intelligence to serve a long-form plan to take over the planet. 1851. The 10th Doctor arrives in London, where he meets a man believing himself the Doctor. Discovering the town overrun by Cybermen, the Doctor identifies the man as Jackson Lake, who supposedly disappeared at the hands of the Cybermen, but actually absorbed the knowledge of the Doctor from cyber information stamps. Together they track down the Cybermen base and find an activated Cyber King controlled by a recently converted Mercy Hartigan. The Doctor finds Jackson's missing son and saves him from the Cybermen before transporting the Cyber King away from London and saving the city. 1869. Nice. Accidentally landing in Cardiff on Christmas Eve, the 9th Doctor and Rose attend a reading of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. Invading the theatre is the reanimated corpse of Mrs. Pearce, a cadaver recently escaped from a local funeral home. When Rose is kidnapped by the funeral director Gabriel Sneed and his psychic assistant Gwyneth, the Doctor and Dickens track them down, and the five discover the cause of the reanimation is a gaseous alien species called the Gelth, who travelled through the Cardiff dimensional rift in an escape from the Time War. The Gelth use and kill Gwyneth as she further opens the rift, and the aliens show their true colours. Using the gas lamps powering the building as both a trap and a fuel source, the Doctor destroys the Gelth by blowing up the funeral home. 1870. The 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory land in Wild West, Nevada, where they discover technological anachronisms thanks to an alien scientist hidden within the town named College X. Learning the town is under siege from an alien hitman called the Gunslinger, the Doctor learns of the Gunslinger's origins as a political prisoner and biological test subject at the hands of College X. Convinced by the Doctor and his companions to finally face justice, College X sacrifices himself in front of the Gunslinger to save the town's citizens from further torment. 1879. The 10th Doctor and Rose arrive in Scotland, where they encounter Queen Victoria in transit to the Torchwood House before moving on to Balmoral. Arriving at the house, they find themselves trapped by a group of monks who have infiltrated the house staff, intent on freeing a captured alien lycanthrope and allowing it to infect the Queen so as to pass down lycanthropy through the royal family. The Doctor learns from the house owner Sir Robert MacLeish that the estate itself was designed as a trap for the werewolf, which can be killed by moonlight reflected through a diamond cut by the late Prince Albert's design. The Doctor and Rose are successful in destroying the werewolf, but too late for it to have already infected the Queen. In the aftermath of their interaction, the Doctor and Rose are simultaneously knighted and banished from Victorian lands. And to prevent another alien interaction, the Queen founds the Torchwood Institute to deal with and investigate extraterrestrial threats. 1881. Travelling to Mars to investigate a God Save the Queen message written into the planet's surface, the 12th Doctor, Bill, and Nardole are left stranded by the TARDIS and soon discover a platoon of Victorian soldiers who were led to the planet by an ice warrior they rescued on patrol in Africa. The ice warrior, Friday, tricks the soldiers into awakening his empress, Iraxa, sparking a battle between the ice warriors and British soldiers. Friday aligns himself with the Doctor, who leads a coup of the platoon's leadership before pacifying Iraxa and inviting Alpha Centauri to assist the Martians in rebuilding their civilization. The Doctor and Bill then write the message themselves before they are rescued by Nardole and Missy in the TARDIS. 1890. The 11th Doctor and Amy land in France to visit Vincent van Gogh, but discover him plagued by an invisible alien only he is able to see. The Doctor identifies the monster as a Crephaeus, and despite his best efforts to speak with the creature, the alien is killed trying to attack Vincent in nervous self-defense. Inspired to show Vincent the impact his works will eventually have, the Doctor and Amy bring Vincent to Amy's time, but the rush is short-lived, and upon returning to his own time, Vincent eventually succumbs to his mental health and commits suicide. Immediately prior to his death, Vincent paints the destruction of the TARDIS from a vision he witnesses about the Doctor's future. 1892. Having taken refuge in Victorian London, the 11th Doctor investigates the nature of snow, which seems to remember its past constructed form. He comes across a barmaid named Clara, who witnesses a conglomeration of living snowmen before returning to her second life as a governess in the English countryside. Tracking her down, the Doctor discovers the Great Intelligence is using the corpse of the family's former governess as a template for his frozen army. The Intelligence's army attacks the house, and Clara is killed, but the template is destroyed and the Great Intelligence thwarted. The Doctor learns Clara's full name, believing she is somehow connected to Oswin Oswald, who he previously met at the Dalek Asylum, and intends to find who he believes to be Clara's original template. 1893. The 11th Doctor and Clara land in Yorkshire to investigate the planned town of Sweetville. They are captured and preserved in stasis by the town founder, Mrs. Gillyflower, though the Doctor survives the conversion process intended to allow him to survive an impending apocalypse. Both are freed by the Paternoster gang and confront Gillyflower, who reveals herself under the command of Mr. Sweet, a prehistoric parasite intent on covering the planet in his poison, the production of which serves as the primary function of the planned town. Strax is able to kill Gillyflower, while Sweet is destroyed by her abused daughter, Ada. 1895. The 12th Doctor and Clara land in London, having accidentally transported a tyrannosaur into the Thames for prehistoric times. They are met by the Paternoster gang, who explains the symptoms of the Doctor's post-regenerative state to Clara, while the Doctor goes to investigate the sudden immolation of the dinosaur. The pair are separately led to a local restaurant, where Clara is captured by an army of clockwork robots seeking to repair their broken ship and reach a promised afterlife. The Doctor and the Paternoster gang rescue Clara and destroy the clockwork robots, before the Doctor returns Clara to the 21st century. 1901. Dan, Yaz, and Professor Jericho are transported back in time by the Weeping Angels, where they witness the arrest of the 13th Doctor through a time window. Trapped without rescue, back to their respective times, the trio are forced to live contemporaneously for the next 3 years, traveling the world for potential solutions to their predicament. 1903. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham arrive in New York, where they find Nikola Tesla under threat by an alien species called the Scythera, bent on using Tesla's futuristic technology for their own benefit. Teaming with Tesla and Thomas Edison, the four employ Tesla's power station at Wardenclyffe Tower to transport the Scythera away from Earth, saving humanity from potential destruction, but destroying Tesla's technology and ruining his reputation. 1904. After 3 years trapped out of their own times, Dan, Yaz, and Jericho discover a prophesied date for the end of the world as a result of the Flux, and seek out the eccentric Joseph Williamson for a path home. Finding one of Williamson's secret tunnels below Liverpool, they are able to travel through time back to 2021. 1905. In Africa, big game hunter John Riddle is recruited by the 11th Doctor to assist in a rescue mission in the 24th century. 1913. Having escaped the predatory family of Blood, who seek to use the Doctor's life force to live forever, the 10th Doctor and Martha hide in the English countryside, with the Doctor changing his DNA, erasing his memory, and taking up the identity of boarding school teacher John Smith to further mask them from the family. The family eventually find the Doctor, taking the form of several locals to terrorize the students and townsfolk to force the Doctor's submission. Having fallen in love with a fellow teacher, John Smith is left with no choice but to essentially kill himself and destroy all he knows, retaking the identity of the Doctor and destroying the family, sentencing them all to eternal punishment for their war crimes. 1914. Captain Lethbridge Stewart is pulled out of time just before his presumed death at the hands of a German soldier during World War I. After being interviewed by testimony, he is returned to his position of death by the 1st and 12th Doctors, before his death is interrupted again by the Christmas armistice. Coming to peace with his own regeneration, the 12th Doctor regenerates before crashing the TARDIS a century into the future. 1916. In Russia, the Spy Master successfully impersonates Grigory Rasputin and uses hypnotism to take control of the Russian Empire. He is gifted the 13th Doctor by the Daleks and forces her to undergo a controlled regeneration, through which she is transformed into him. Yaz and Vinder arrive in time to trick the Master's army of Cybermasters into self-destruction, before forcing the Master to return the Doctor to her own body and returning to 2022. 1926. The 10th Doctor and Donna land in the English countryside in time for a party held in honor of Agatha Christie. After guests are slowly killed off in mysterious fashion, the pair team up with Christie to expose the murderer, eventually piecing together the Reverend as the illegitimate child of party host Lady Edison, who himself is a transformative alien called a Vesperform. Seeking vengeance for his abandonment and lost inheritance, the trio eventually chase the Vesperform to a nearby lake, where he accidentally drowns searching for the sinking family jewel. Christie, who held an empathic link with the alien, is knocked unconscious and disappears for several days before turning up again with no memory of the party or the Vesperform. 1930. The 10th Doctor and Martha Jones land in New York City and investigate the disappearances of homeless residents in Central Park's Hooverville. They follow a lead into the nearby sewer, where they are ambushed by a number of human-pig hybrids before managing to escape. Discovering an alien material native to Skaro, their investigation leads them to the Empire State Building, the construction of which is being directed by Daleks from the cult of Skaro. Attempting to resuscitate their race, Dalek Sek has fused his DNA with that of a human's, making himself a human-Dalek hybrid. The Daleks originally planned to do the same with the disappearing humans, but upon witnessing Sek's change of perspective and newfound impurities, backtrack and change their plan to imprison humanity as slaves. The Doctor and Martha sabotage this plan and introduce skepticism into the slave DNA, which forces the Daleks to exterminate their slaves in a mass genocide. In the ensuing battle, all but Dalek Khan are killed, and upon being confronted by the Doctor, he escapes by way of a temporal shift back into the Time War. 1938. The 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory land in Berlin, having been kidnapped by their daughter Melody with the intention of killing the German Chancellor. Their plan is interrupted by the disappearance of the Tesselector, a time-traveling police ship which plans to preserve the Chancellor until the time is right to serve him justice, though they change their target to Melody upon realizing her identity. Having been shot in the chaos, Melody regenerates into River Song before poisoning the Doctor and escaping to cause mayhem in Berlin. Amy and Rory track her down and convince her to save the Doctor with her active regeneration energy, while the Doctor learns the nature of his future death at Lake Silencio at River's hands. Having been sent back in time by the Weeping Angels, Rory is met by River Song and followed soon after by the 11th Doctor and Amy in the TARDIS. They find New York City infested with Weeping Angels, who lure victims to local apartment block and repeatedly send them back through time. Rory witnesses his own future death within the apartment, and hoping to destroy the presented future, sacrifices his present self alongside Amy by jumping from an apartment rooftop. At Christmas, the 11th Doctor is assisted by Madge Arwell after rescuing the Earth from an extraterrestrial threat. 1941. The 9th Doctor and Rose arrive in London during the Blitz, where they are separated after Rose attempts to save a child left outside during the bombing. She is saved herself by time traveler Jack Harkness, a former time agent from the far future now working alongside the Allied command. Meanwhile, the Doctor investigates the child, of whom a number of others are deathly afraid. He interviews Nancy, a motherly young woman who steals food for the homeless children of London. She leads him to Dr. Constantine at a local hospital, who affirms the Doctor's suspicion that the child is no longer human, and has turned others into gas mask-wearing zombies akin to himself. Dr. Constantine himself turns into a zombie, and the Doctor is reunited with Rose and Jack, who escape and investigate the bomb site where the child first developed his symptoms. Realizing the bomb is actually an alien hospital, the Doctor deduces that the onboard medical system failed to recognize the true form of the boy after he was killed in its landing. And the nanogene technology revived the child and has been changing every contacted human into the way they found him, dead, covered in a gas mask, and calling for its mother. In the impending danger, Jack comes clean about the hospital's origins. He sent it to Earth to con the Doctor into buying its salvage before it is destroyed in another bombing. Realizing the only way to save the child, and in turn themselves, the Doctor forces Nancy to come in contact with the nanogenes, having deduced her being the child's teenage mother, and hoping the genes will revert the boy in the image of his genetic source. The plan is successful, with all zombified patients having been healed of their injuries, and the boy reverted to his living self. The Doctor and Rose then save Jack, who sacrifices himself to protect London from the incoming bomb, and he joins them on their journey in the TARDIS. At the same time, the 11th Doctor and Amy arrive in Churchill's war rooms, quickly discovering the Daleks posing as man-made defense machines called Ironsides. After their identity is prompted by the Doctor, the Daleks reveal their creation to be a hoax. Their inventor, Edwin Bracewell, is in reality an android created by the Daleks to trigger their own evolution. The Doctor is transported to a hidden Dalek ship nearby, where he witnesses the birth of a new race of progenitor Daleks who destroy the others and lay claim to the Earth. Using Spitfires outfitted with future technology allowing them to fly in space, the Doctor chases the Daleks into a wormhole, saving the Earth. Soon after, Van Gogh's painting of the TARDIS exploding falls into Churchill's possession, who places the work in the archives of the British government. At Christmas that same year, the 11th Doctor lands in rural England, where he joins the household of Madge Arwell, who has moved to the country as a result of the Blitz. Hoping to save Christmas for her children after learning about the disappearance of her husband in the war, the Doctor sets up an elaborate gift for the children, allowing them transport to a fantastical planet in the far future. Their journey home guides the off-track plane of their father, who rejoins his family just in time for Christmas Day. 1943. The 13th Doctor and Ada Lovelace are transported to German-occupied Paris, where they meet Nur Inayat Khan. The Doctor parleys with the Spy Master, who uses a perception filter to hide his skin color and blend into the German ranks. The Master reveals to the Doctor that Gallifrey has been destroyed once again, and the Doctor destroys his perception filter before the Master is captured and placed in a concentration camp. 1945. Around this time, the 12th Doctor and Nardole ground Missy's vault in Bristol, and the Doctor begins a long time lecturing at St. Luke's University. 1947. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham traveled to the Punjabi border to meet Yaz's grandmother, Umbreen, and investigate a secretive day in her past. They discover Umbreen, a Muslim, is said to be married to a Hindu man, Prem, on the day of the British partition of India and Pakistan. After believing an alien species haunt the surrounding lands and threaten Umbreen's family, the Doctor learns that these creatures are simply bearing witness to a foretold tragedy. After the wedding, Umbreen and her Muslim family are chased into Pakistan by Prem's brother Manesh, who has been radicalized by anti-Muslim sentiment surrounding the partition, and believing it his duty as a patriot, kills his brother Prem for threatening the security of the Indian people. In Bristol, a child named John attempts to please his dying mother Eliza with a collection of alien lice he found in the family garden. When exposed to music, the lice work to preserve Eliza by transforming her into wood. Desperate to keep her preserved forever, he makes a pact with the lice to feed them for the rest of his life. 1953. The 10th Doctor and Rose Tyler arrive in London in time to witness the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. At a local electronics shop, an alien life force called the Wire forces the owner, Mr. Magpie, to feed her by way of trapping the souls of unwilling victims in his television sets, which he has been selling at a discount under the pretense of supporting the coronation. After Rose falls victim to the Wire, the Doctor tracks Magpie to the Alexandra Palace transmitter and thwarts his plan, capturing the Wire on a closed-circuit recorder and freeing Magpie, Rose, and all the other victims of the Wire's rampage. 1955. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham unintentionally land in Montgomery, Alabama, where they meet Rosa Parks prior to her infamous bus boycott. Discovering the timeline is threatened by a time traveler called Krasko, who plans to interrupt Rosa in order to permanently delay the advancement of universal civil rights, the trio work to restore the original timeline by meddling with the local transport schedule, including the trio having to sit on the infamous bus in order to force Rosa to give up her seat. Traumatized by their involvement, the Doctor encourages the three by showing them the outcome of their actions before returning them home to the proper time. 1957. John opens his home at 11 Cardinal Road in Bristol to renters. The first group of tenants are soon after consumed by the alien lice within the house. 1958. A time manipulator known as the Grand Serpent disguises himself on Earth under the name Prentice, where he helps to found UNIT and rid the organization of political dissidents to further his own agenda. 1967. The 13th Doctor, Dan, and Yaz are stranded in the village of Mediton by the Weeping Angels, where Professor Jericho conducts psychic experiments on another time-trapped individual named Claire. Claire reveals Mediton is the location of two separate mass disappearances, one in 1901 and one in 1967. Another Weeping Angel sends Jericho, Dan, and Yaz back to the first disappearance, while the Doctor remains with Claire to negotiate with the predatory angels. The Doctor is imprisoned by the angels and transformed into one of them to be transported out of time. 1969. Nice. Early in the year, the 10th Doctor and Martha Jones are transported back in time by the Weeping Angels. In April, the 11th Doctor, Amy, Rory, and River Song land in Washington, where they are arrested for trespassing in the Oval Office. Talking his way into a partnership with President Nixon and former Secret Service agent Canton Delaware, their investigation leads them to Florida in following a mysterious phone call from a child to a secure line in the White House. At an orphanage formerly housing the child, Amy is captured by the Silence and replaced by a flesh doppelganger. Realizing the planet is overrun by Silence, who use their forgettable nature to manipulate the direction of humanity, the Doctor and his companions spend the next several months hijacking the Apollo moon landing. Upon the airing of the famous broadcast, a message recorded by Canton is cut into the footage of Neil Armstrong's first steps, which shows a dying Silent admitting their manipulation, and claiming the best thing for humanity would be to kill every Silent on sight. This leads to a massacre of the Silents by subconscious humans, allowing humanity to reclaim control of their historical progression. Billy Shipton is transported back in time by the Weeping Angels. Meeting the 10th Doctor and Martha, he is put to work recording the Doctor's half of the Sally Sparrow DVD conversation, which is strategically placed as an Easter egg on future DVD packages. 1970. Having made her way to New York, Melody Pond regenerates for the first time, now set on finding her parents in their upcoming youth. 1974. The 11th Doctor and Clara land in rural England to investigate paranormal happenings at the Caliburn house. Traveling through the house's history, the Doctor deduces the house's ghost to be a psychic remnant of a time traveler named Hila Tokorian, who is trapped in a pocket dimension and attempting to get back through to the known universe. Assisted by paranormal scientist Alec Palmer, they utilize the psychic abilities of his partner Emma, and are able to rescue Hila and reunite the pocket universe's native entity with its partner, which itself had been trapped in the Caliburn house. 1977. The 10th Doctor traces an elemental shade to a family home in London. The Shade manages to kill the woman living in the house before being subdued by the Doctor, and the events are witnessed by the woman's young son, Elton. In Bristol, the second group of tenants are consumed by the alien lice at 11 Cardinal Road. 1980. The 12th Doctor arrives in Scotland alongside crew members O'Donnell and Bennett from the 22nd Century underwater mining base. They learn that the salvaged spaceship in the future is a hearse housing the Fisher King, who has faked his own death, killed his Tavolian escort, and carved psychic symbols into the wall of the ship as a beacon to contact a rescue team. He's confronted by the Doctor after killing O'Donnell, who distracts him long enough to plant an explosive device in a nearby dam, flooding the valley, killing the Fisher King, and creating the lake in which the underwater base will eventually lie. 1983. Under the North Pole, the 11th Doctor and Clara Oswald land aboard a Soviet submarine, which has recently unthawed the trapped armored body of a living Ice Warrior. The Ice Warrior breaks free and wreaks havoc on the ship, intending to spark a global nuclear war in retaliation for his abduction, though is convinced by the Doctor to change his mind after he is rescued by other members of his species. 1986. The 12th Doctor lands in Antarctica, refusing to regenerate. He comes across his first incarnation also refusing, who causes a temporal paradox which damages time. The pair are joined by Captain Lethbridge Stewart, who is pulled from his own time just before his death in World War I. The trio are taken to an alien ship and questioned by a replication of Bill Potts, who serves as a spokesperson for the Memory Harvesting and Storage Corporation, Testimony. In conversing with Bill and his former self, the 12th Doctor is convinced to regenerate one more time, and the two Doctors travel to 1914 to return the Captain to his own time before the first Doctor returns to 1986 and regenerates. 1987. The 9th Doctor returns Rose to the day of her father's death, hoping to keep him from dying alone as her mother always told her he had. Missing her chance the first time, but later returning to do it again, Rose stops her father from suffering the fatal car accident, breaking time and causing alien timekeepers called Reapers to appear and sterilize the timeline. The 9th Doctor and Rose take refuge in a church, where, upon witnessing the failing marriage of her parents, which she had always romanticized, she finally tells her father who she is, and upon consideration under attack from the Reapers, her father Pete returns to the spot of his impending death and allows himself to be killed in order to save time. 1992. The 12th Doctor lands in New York City to correct a series of temporal paradoxes affecting time travel in and out of the city. Saved from falling to his death by 8-year-old Grant Gordon, he shows Grant a magical gemstone which the boy accidentally swallows, believing it to be cold medicine, and the gem grants Grant select superpowers, including flight. 1994. The 12th Doctor and Clara inaccurately land in Gloucester after the latter is distracted while trying to pilot them to a childhood. Instead, they find a young Danny Pink living in an orphanage, haunted by the perfect hiding entity with which the Doctor has become infatuated. Upon promising to let the entity live in peace, they are freed from danger, and Clara inadvertently gives Danny the idea to eventually join the military. 1996. The 11th Doctor crash lands the TARDIS in the garden of young Amy Pond. The two strike up a quick friendship, and the Doctor investigates an alien crack in her bedroom wall before returning to his decimated TARDIS and promising to return soon. Months later, Amy visits a history museum with her aunt and hides to stay in the building after hours. Her touch opens a Pandorica, which is now housed in the museum, which releases a now resurrected version of adult Amy from Roman Britain. The pair are joined by the 11th Doctor, Rory, and River Song, and the Doctor sacrifices himself by flying the Pandorica into the exploding TARDIS in an attempt to reboot the dying universe. The plan is successful, and time resets back to normal. 1997. The third group of tenants are consumed by the alien lice at 11 Cardinal Road in Bristol. 2005. On New Year's Eve, the 10th Doctor meets Rose Tyler prior to her meeting him later that year, and wishes her good fortune in the upcoming year before retreating to the TARDIS and regenerating. In March, the 9th Doctor arrives in London to investigate the Nestine consciousness, a being made entirely of living plastic, which is using the abundance of plastics on Earth to take control of the planet. During his investigation, he runs into Rose Tyler, who teams up with the Doctor to take down the Nestine after her boyfriend Mickey Smith is captured and replicated. Rose learns of the Doctor's mysterious relationship with tragedy through a dedicated conspiracy theorist named Clive, who, along with several others in the London area, are killed after the Nestine activates shop window dummies to accelerate its plan of domination. The Doctor and Rose are successful in destroying the Nestine, and in the aftermath, Rose leaves Earth with the Doctor after he invites her to join him through time and space. 2006. In March, the 9th Doctor accidentally returns Rose to her home 12 months late, where the pair witness the crash landing of a spaceship through Westminster and into the River Thames. Taking this as indisputable evidence for the arrival of aliens, the media fuel a public frenzy when a supposed body is found in the wreckage. In actuality, the spaceship is a decoy used by a family of aliens from the planet of Raxacor Cephalopatorius called the Slitheen, who use the period of confusion to infiltrate positions of power in the British government. The Slitheen intend to access Britain's nuclear codes from the United Nations by way of fear-mongering, then destroy the Earth and sell it to the highest bidder. The Doctor and Rose investigate the situation at 10 Downing Street, where, alongside the MP for Flydale North, Harriet Jones, they thwart the Slitheen escape while surviving the destruction of 10 Downing Street inside the Prime Minister's defense bunker. After the Slitheen are destroyed, Jones becomes the face of human response to alien invasion and is elected as Prime Minister herself in the following snap election. Several months later, the Ninth Doctor, Rose, and Jack Harkness arrive in Cardiff to refuel the TARDIS over the dimensional rift. They are joined by Mickey Smith, and the four discover that Margaret Blaine, who they recognize as a surviving Slitheen, has been elected mayor of Cardiff. Investigating her Bad Wolf nuclear project, the Doctor confirms the power plant is designed to malfunction and cause a meltdown, which Margaret admits is a way for her to ride the energy wave from the rift away from Earth and escape the solar system. They place her under citizen's arrest with the intention of returning her to face prosecution on Raxacoricofallapatorius. She attempts to both plead her case with the Doctor and escape, with the latter of her plans resulting in a meltdown of the TARDIS, which the team are forced to fix. In the confusion, Margaret is exposed to the heart of the TARDIS and reduced to an egg. The Doctor then resolves to return her to her home planet to be raised in a more sympathetic second life. Rose later returns with the TARDIS as the Doctor sends her back in time from Satellite 5 for her own safety. With the help of her mother and Mickey Smith, she regains access to the dead TARDIS console, and in reactivating its heart, accidentally absorbs the time vortex and sets off to find the Doctor by following the Bad Wolf trail. At Christmas, the 10th Doctor arrives in London with Rose shortly after regenerating. At the same time, the United Kingdom loses contact with the Guinevere 1 space probe near Mars, which is captured by a hostile alien race called the Sycorax. Using a sample of human blood from inside the probe, the Sycorax hypnotize a third of the human population and force a surrender from Prime Minister Harriet Jones, who boards the Sycorax ship when it reaches the atmosphere. She is joined by the Doctor, who challenges the leader of the Sycorax to single combat. Though he loses his hand to a sword, the Doctor uses his still-active regeneration energy to heal himself and kill the Sycorax leader before forcing the race to abandon their takeover of Earth. As they leave, the Prime Minister shoots down the alien ship as a preemptive measure, much to the Doctor's horror, and he threatens her downfall before planting the seeds of Jones' ineptitude to one of her aides. 2007. Elton Pope meets fellow Doctor enthusiast Ursula Blake when he spots pictures of the recent Sycorax invasion on her blog. The pair soon meet a number of other Doctor enthusiasts and form the London Investigation and Detective Agency to discuss their experiences and theories about the Doctor. At the Deffrey Vale School in London, the Doctor, Rose, and Mickey Smith investigate the dealings of new headmaster Mr. Finch, whose methods in curriculum and changes to student lifestyle habits have resulted in profound improvements to student test scores and in-class performance. Simultaneously investigating is former companion Sarah Jane Smith, who's reintroduced to the Doctor after his fourth incarnation left her stranded in Aberdeen in 1976. The Doctor is also reunited with the robotic dog K9, and in their mutual investigation, the five discover that Finch and the staff of the school are of an alien species called the Krillitanes, who evolved to mimic stolen traits from other species for their future benefit. The staff are programming the students to solve a so far impossible algorithm which will allow the Krillitanes to reach the peak of their evolutionary potential. With the help of K9, the Doctor destroys both K9 and the Krillitanes in a school-wide explosion, and offers an invitation to Sarah Jane to join him, Rose, and Mickey aboard the TARDIS, though she declines, intent on continuing her own investigations across the United Kingdom. The London Investigation and Detective Agency is overtaken by a man called Mr. Kennedy, who seeks to use the group to find and entice the Doctor to come to them. After several agency members go missing, Kennedy reveals himself to be an alien from the planet Clom, called an Absorbaloff, which absorbs the physical forms of other creatures to feed himself both physically and mentally. After the Absorbaloff absorbs Ursula, Elton is chased into a nearby alley, where he is rescued by the 10th Doctor and Rose. With the help of the absorbed agency members, Elton is able to destroy the Absorbaloff by absorbing him into the Earth, while the Doctor is able to salvage Ursula's life force into a paving slab. Nice. In London, Sally Sparrow and her friend Kathy investigate a series of disappearances at an abandoned estate. When Kathy disappears at the hands of mysterious angel statues surrounding the house, Sally learns from Kathy's grandson that she was transported to the past and died in 1987. Sally learns from Kathy's brother Larry the appearance of the 10th Doctor on every single DVD in her home collection, who spouts seemingly rhetorical warnings about the angels, who he identifies as alien predators who can only be seen when not observed. Soon realizing the empty conversation is implied to be had with her in the future, Sally enacts the Doctor's plan to send the TARDIS back to 1969, where he is trapped with Martha Jones, before the angels can access it. The plan is successful, and Sally joins Larry in running a local DVD store. Returning back to a normal time, Rose and the 10th Doctor find that for the past few months, half-manifested physical bodies called ghosts have been appearing around the world, becoming a normal part of everyday life and pop culture. Both fascinated and concerned, the Doctor captures a ghost before it disappears and traces its origins back to the Torchwood Institute on Canary Wharf. He meets Yvonne Hartman, the Institute director, who informs the Doctor of the ghost's origins through a dimensional void, where Rose investigates the Institute herself and finds a mysterious magical sphere which defies the laws of physics. The Doctor exposes the ghosts in their full form, and the ghosts are revealed to be Cybermen, having traveled through the void from a parallel dimension. The sphere found by Rose is revealed to house an army of Daleks, and humanity becomes caught in the crossfire of a two-way war with the Daleks and Cybermen. The Doctor, Rose, and Jackie are saved by Mickey Smith and a parallel version of Rose's father Pete, who have traveled from the same parallel universe as the Cybermen. The Doctor manages to reverse the energy from the void, sending the Daleks and the Cybermen both back through the portal. Rose begins to fall through the void, but is rescued by the parallel version of her father, though she is unable to travel back to her own reality and becomes trapped away from the Doctor in the parallel world. Immediately after the Doctor says farewell to Rose, Donna Noble is transported away from her wedding into the TARDIS. The Doctor finds her body teeming with Huon particles, which attracted her to the TARDIS, and deduces from Donna's backstory that she absorbed the Huon energy at work. Investigating a workplace, the pair discover a tunnel below the Thames barrier, leading to the center of the Earth alongside her fiancé Lance, who reveals himself as a double agent working for the alien Rachnos living at the center of the planet. The Doctor floods the Rachnos nest at the base of the hole, though Donna stops him before he is able to kill himself in the flood. Now safe, the Doctor asks Donna to travel alongside him, though she declines and urges him to find someone else. 2008. The 11th Doctor mistimes his return to Amy Pond's home in Ledworth, returning 12 years later than intended. A now adult Amy holds a significant grudge over the Doctor, whose brief arrival and disappearance resulted in the belief that he was an imaginary friend over whom she hyperfixated for several years in her youth. Discovering that an intergalactic prisoner escaped through the crack in her bedroom wall, the Doctor convinces Amy and her boyfriend Rory to help him stop the prison guards from torching the planet to destroy Prisoner Zero. They identify Prisoner Zero impersonating local coma patients and relay the information to the Atraxi guards, who recapture the prisoner. Making a statement on behalf of the human race, the Doctor warns the Atraxi to never return, before returning to his newly refurbished TARDIS and leaving Amy again. In London, the 10th Doctor investigates a local hospital which is suddenly transported to the moon without precaution. Stolen by the Jadoon Intergalactic Police Force, they search for a fugitive plasmavore while the building slowly runs out of air. Assisted by doctoral student Martha Jones, the Doctor is able to identify the elusive plasmavore and turn her into the Jadoon before the hospital's residents suffocate to death. Having captured their target, the Jadoon return the hospital to Earth, and the Doctor invites Martha to join him in the TARDIS. The next day, the 10th Doctor and Martha return in time to see Richard Lazarus announce a solution to human aging. As Martha's sister Tish is working for Lazarus, they manage to witness his experiment, where he reverses his own aging by manipulating his DNA. A skeptical Doctor warns Lazarus to beware the repercussions before an ancient evolutionary strain activates and Lazarus transforms into a grotesque scorpion-like monster. Tracking the monster to Southwark Cathedral, the Doctor disorients him by overpowering the pipe organ with the sonic screwdriver. Overwhelmed by the noise, Lazarus falls to his death from the top of the cathedral. The situation is investigated by the government of Harold Saxon, who warns Martha's family to stay away from the Doctor. The 10th Doctor and Martha return to London to thwart a reptilian alien invasion. Their arrival is witnessed by Sally Sparrow, who thanks the Doctor for saving her from the angels in his future, before providing him with the conversational notes for his DVD interview recorded in 1969. The 10th Doctor, Martha, and Jack Harkness travel back from the far future shortly after Harold Saxon is elected to replace Harriet Jones as Prime Minister. Having developed a fictional backstory for himself and his companion Lucy, the Master alienates and destroys any political dissidents with the assistance of an alien race called the Toclophane. The Doctor discovers a hidden brainwashing signal transmitted from the Master's trademark subwave network, making him virtually indestructible as Prime Minister, and in attempting to expose the Master, Martha is forced to go into hiding, while Jack and the Doctor are imprisoned with Martha's family aboard the Master's control ship. The Toclophane are revealed to be the remnants of humanity from the far future, bent on destroying the human race for entertainment, made possible by the TARDIS, which has been turned into a machine which allows for paradoxes to exist in the space-time continuum. For an entire calendar year, Martha walks Earth to sabotage the Master, though this year is reversed and erased completely from human memory except for those aboard the Master's control ship. The 10th Doctor crashes the TARDIS into a spaceship replica of the Titanic, originating from the planet Stowe. Traveling to Earth to observe more primitive societies, the true motivation of the ship's operators is to orchestrate an asteroid collision resulting in the destruction of all life on Earth and bankrupt the cruise company for corporate revenge. After destroying the ship's automated system, the Doctor is able to retake control of the ship and pilot it away before crashing into Earth. 2009. Donna Noble and the 10th Doctor separately investigate a London-based weight loss company called Adipose, discovering that the supplements parasitically create living offspring from human fat cells. Reuniting by happenstance during their investigations, they alter the rescue process for the adipose offspring and rescue the remaining adipose users from complete consumption before Donna finally accepts the Doctor's invitation to join him in the TARDIS. The 10th Doctor and Donna are called back to Earth by Martha Jones, who now works for a more militarized outfit of UNIT. The trio investigate Atmos, a satellite navigation system which doubles as a carbon emissions eliminator. They discover the founder, child prodigy Luke Ratigan, is under the employ of the Sontarans, who seek to invade Earth with a combination of destruction and mind control. Atmos is activated for its true purpose, to poison the atmosphere and lure the militaries of Earth into war with far superior Sontarans. Realizing his lack of significance in the grander Sontaran plan, Luke turns on the Sontarans and sacrifices himself to destroy the entire invading fleet. The 10th Doctor and Donna return to London following a warning from Rose Tyler, though they are quickly lost in space when the Earth suddenly disappears from its position. Visiting the Shadow Proclamation and learning of 26 other planets which have also disappeared, the Doctor is able to find the Earth in a time pocket and return alongside Donna. The Earth's disappearance is revealed to be orchestrated by Davros and the Daleks, who use the lost planets to fuel a weaponized reality bomb. The Doctor is killed by a Dalek before reuniting with Rose, though regenerates into a copy of his current form, and the group are taken captive aboard a Dalek ship. After Donna and the TARDIS are set to be destroyed, the Doctor's remaining regeneration energy fuses with his lost hand from the Sycorax invasion, creating a human copy of himself, which in turn tricks Davros and the Daleks, with Donna to terminate the threat. With the help of past companions, the two Doctors return the Earth to its correct place, before returning Rose to her alternate universe, allowing her to take the human clone Doctor with her. Donna's brain is unable to retain the consciousness she absorbed during the Time Lord metacrisis, and the Doctor is forced to wipe her memory of him entirely, before returning her home and leaving on his own. The 10th Doctor arrives in London to investigate an influx of rondium particles. He comes across a cat burglar named Christina de Souza, and the pair, along with a handful of others aboard a London bus, are transported across the universe to the planet of San Helios. Discovering the planet is the latest feeding ground for a predatory swarm of alien stingrays, the Doctor constructs a makeshift teleport to send the bus and its passengers back to Earth before they can be consumed by the swarm. The 10th Doctor returns to London at the same time the Saxon Master is resurrected by a dedicated cult. His former companion Lucy sabotages the ceremony, resulting in the Master returning in an incomplete form. He is taken into the custody of billionaire Joshua Naismith, who intends to use the Master's knowledge of extraterrestrial technology to make his daughter immortal. The Master reprograms Naismith's medical device to transform humanity into clones of himself, then transports the Time Lords out of their time lock during the Time War to re-establish Gallifrey on Earth. Soon convinced that this will result in the end of his own supremacy, the Master turns on the Time Lords and forces them back into the Time War. During the ensuing chaos, Donna's grandfather Wilf is trapped in a radioactive chamber, and the Doctor sacrifices himself to save Wilf before delaying his inevitable regeneration. 2010. The 10th Doctor saves Martha Jones and Mickey Smith from a Sontaran attack, then visits Wilf again at Donna's second wedding, offering the family a winning lottery ticket as a final goodbye. In June, the 11th Doctor returns to Ledworth after leaving Amy behind for another 2 years. The pair journey off together before returning the same night, where Amy attempts to seduce the Doctor the night before her wedding to Rory Williams. Attempting to salvage their relationship, the Doctor invites Rory to join them in the TARDIS, and the trio head off to Venice. Riversong lands with the TARDIS outside Amy's house, realizing too late the trap set for the Doctor back in Roman Britain. The TARDIS is hijacked from the outside by the Silents, who explode the ship with River still inside. After the universe is rebooted in 1996, time resets to the 26th of June for Amy and Rory's wedding day. Using hints left by River at the reception, Amy's psychic link with the Doctor allows him to return to the known universe, and following their wedding, the trio head off in the TARDIS. The 11th Doctor lands in Colchester without Amy or the TARDIS, as the ship is kept from materializing due to an external force. The Doctor investigates the two-story flat of Craig Owens and discovers the upper floor is actually a masked silent ship luring passers-by to unsuccessfully serve as pilots. After Craig's girlfriend Sophie is lured to the ship, the Doctor and Craig destroy the ship's automated host and force it away from the Earth, finally allowing the TARDIS to land and rescue the Doctor. 2011. In April, Amy, Rory, and River Song travel to Utah to visit the 11th Doctor. Picnicking at Lake Silencio, the Doctor is shot and killed by a past version of River in an Apollo astronaut suit. With the help of an elderly Canton, Delaware, they burn his body to eliminate his valuable Time Lord DNA, though in reality, this body is the shell of the Tesselector, and the Doctor has survived and successfully faked his own death. Believing they have witnessed his death, the Doctor's companions meet a past version of the Doctor at a nearby diner before heading to 1969 to investigate the appearance of the astronaut. The 11th Doctor is reunited with Amy and Rory in August, where they are kidnapped by their childhood friend Mel's, who reveals herself to be their daughter Melody, and forces them to travel back to 1938 in the TARDIS. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory are summoned to Croydon by a young boy with hypersensitivity to danger. After Amy and Rory are sucked into a living version of the child's old playhouse and transformed into zombified peg dolls, the Doctor deduces that the child is in reality an empathetic alien who implanted himself in the lives of a couple desperate to have children. Traveling inside the playhouse themselves, the child and his adoptive father are forced to face their fears to reverse the effects of the house on Amy and Rory. The 11th Doctor drops Amy and Rory off in London, where he gifts them with a new house and car as a departing gift. He then travels to Colchester to say goodbye to Craig Owens, though realizes something is off about the city and begins investigating a local department store which serves as a front for a hidden base of Cybermen. With Craig's help, the Doctor is able to destroy the cyber base before heading off to face his death at Lake Silencio. The 11th Doctor returns to London at Christmas, where he reveals to Amy, Rory, and River his survival from the attack at Lake Silencio and joins them for Christmas dinner. 2012. The 9th Doctor and Rose land in a museum bunker near Salt Lake City, discovering a collection of alien remains and artifacts belonging to eccentric billionaire Henry Van Statten. Upon learning that the Doctor is himself alien, Van Statten demands that he help crack the code of his latest edition, but the Doctor is horrified to find that the live specimen in question is in fact a Dalek, who escaped the Time War and landed to be discovered nearby. Intent on destroying it based primarily in his own trauma from the Time War, the Doctor is stopped by Rose, who, not knowing the two beings' previous encounters, sympathizes with the Dalek and forces the Doctor to acknowledge his uncharacteristic behavior. The Dalek attempts to break out of the facility, but upon realizing he has nothing left to return to after the Time War, commits suicide before being exposed to the greater human population. Van Statten is arrested for his role in the destruction, and the Doctor and Rose are joined by his assistant Adam Mitchell as they head off for their next adventure. With the marriage falling apart due to Amy's infertility, Amy and Rory are captured by Dalek sentries to assist in cleansing the Dalek asylum alongside the 11th Doctor. Having salvaged their marriage on the asylum of the Daleks, Amy and Rory perform repairs on the home in London with Rory's father Brian before the trio are inadvertently transported to the TARDIS in the 24th century. Soon after they return, the Earth is invaded by a mass conglomeration of small cubes around the world, which create a worldwide cultural craze before slowly being absorbed into daily life. The 10th Doctor and Rose land in London just prior to the 30th Olympiad. The pair investigate the disappearance of a handful of local children and trace the disappearances to Chloe Webber, a local girl who the Doctor discovers hosts an Isolus, a lost alien wanderer whose fusion with Chloe has allowed the girl's drawings to capture the real forms of those they are based upon. The Doctor disappears as the Olympic torch relay travels through the neighborhood, and having discovered the Isolus ship, Rose throws it into the Olympic torch to reactivate it, recapturing the Isolus and rescue the people captured by Chloe's drawings. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory vacation in New York City, where Rory is sent back in time after an ambush by the Weeping Angels. Using hints written in a book by River Song, they trace him to 1938 and travel back to rescue him. Having rid the city of the angel threat, they return to the present, where Rory is once again ambushed by a surviving angel. Understanding they can't go back and save him with the TARDIS a second time, Amy sacrifices herself to the angel and is sent back to be reunited with Rory in the past. 2013. A year on from their initial arrival, the cubes are finally activated, resulting in mass heart failure for humanity around the world. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory investigate a dimensional portal in a local hospital, which transports them to an orbiting ship belonging to the legendary Shakri, who plan to exterminate humanity for perceived harm to the future of the universe. The Doctor is able to reverse the effect of the cubes, and they are removed from homes and workplaces by UNIT. The 11th Doctor arrives in London to meet Clara Oswald, who is soon uploaded by an antagonistic Wi-Fi server rooted in the Shard under the employ of the Great Intelligence. The Doctor interrupts the upload and travels to the Shard to take down the programmers. Hacking into a mobile base station and using it to infiltrate the programming company, he forces the Great Intelligence to retreat, and the company's operators are reverted to their pre-employment selves. After the excursion, the Doctor invites Clara to travel with him in the TARDIS. The 11th Doctor takes Clara to the Arcaton system, where they witness a ceremony to keep a zombified god in slumber. The ceremony is interrupted and the god is awoken, threatening the entire solar system. The Doctor attempts to feed the god with sentimental energy, though the god refuses to quell until Clara declares herself an amalgamation of untold potential. Finally satisfied, the god retracts, alleviating danger to the solar system. Returning from Victorian Yorkshire, Clara is forced to bring along the children for whom she nannies after they blackmail her with pictures they have discovered of her throughout time. The 11th Doctor decides on an interstellar amusement park and therefore travel to Hedrick's World of Wonders in the far future. In September, Clara begins teaching at Coal Hill School. Contacted by the 11th Doctor, the pair are unintentionally kidnapped by UNIT, who reveal a break-in at the hidden Royal Art Gallery. After the Doctor is transported to the 16th century by a wormhole, the culprits reveal themselves as Zygons, who intend to take the Earth by force. In the Tower of London, the Zygon leadership is met by the 10th, 11th, and War Doctors, who perform a mass wipe of the Zygons' memories, making them believe they are human and allowing them to assimilate into human society. At Christmas, the 11th Doctor joins Clara for dinner with her family before the pair travel to the future to answer an audience by the Church of the Papal Mainframe. Clara is returned alone, having been tricked by the Doctor for her own safety, though she is again transported to the future by Tasha Lem to face the Doctor before his death. 2014. Inaccurately landing in Glasgow, Clara changes her mind on leaving the 12th Doctor upon receiving a phone call from the 11th Doctor prior to his regeneration. At the start of term at Coal Hill School, Clara meets Danny Pink, and the pair hit it off before Clara is taken to the TARDIS to investigate a rogue Dalek in the 51st century. Their first date off to a questionable start, Clara is taken away from Danny by the 12th Doctor, interested in investigating the nature of secrecy in animal evolution. Returning to the date after visiting Danny's childhood, she is once again interrupted, this time by time traveler Orson Pink, with whom she travels to the end of the universe alongside the Doctor. She eventually returns a second time, and the pair finally reconcile their introductions and begin a relationship. The 12th Doctor investigates a potential alien invasion by posing as a caretaker at Coal Hill School. Discovering the threat is an assassin robot known as a Skovox Blitzer, his initial plan to destroy it is inadvertently thwarted by Danny Pink, and the Blitzer returns during a school-wide conference event for the students' parents. Luring the Blitzer away from the event, the Doctor, Clara, and Danny team up to deactivate the robot and send it into deep space. Landing in Bristol after the TARDIS is hijacked, Clara investigates an alien invasion by trans-dimensional species called the Boneless, who originate from a plane with only 2 dimensions. After the TARDIS is drained of its power and the Doctor is left trapped inside, they use the energy transference abilities of the Boneless to restore the TARDIS power supply and transport the Boneless back to their own dimension. Overnight, a forest engulfs the world ahead of an incoming solar event. Realizing the trees are shielding the planet from extinction-level radiation, the Doctor recruits students from Clara's class to warn the world not to harm the trees. After the solar event, the forest again disappears, leaving humanity and human civilization as it was. Soon after, Danny Pink is struck and killed by a passing vehicle. Using the TARDIS telepathic circuit, the Doctor and Clara investigate 3W, an afterlife preservation service which they quickly discover is run by a female version of the Master called Missy inside St. Paul's Cathedral. Using adapted Time Lord technology, Missy has been able to harvest dead human consciousnesses for millennia, finally culminating in the conversion of every human corpse into a Cyberman. After a resurrected Danny reveals Missy's plan to Clara and the Doctor, he overrides Missy's control and sets the Cybermen to self-destruct, while Missy is seemingly killed by the resurrected corpse of the Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Distraught by Danny's death, Clara again resolves to leave the TARDIS. At Christmas, the Doctor, Clara, and a handful of others are simultaneously preyed upon by dream crabs and hallucinate their lives working at a mysterious base in the North Pole. Testing a theory on how to break free from the dream crabs, the Doctor is able to free the others before hallucinating himself decades too late to save Clara the way he knew her. Coming to a rudimentary peace with Danny's death, Clara once again joins the Doctor in the TARDIS. 2015. Missy announces her survival to UNIT by freezing every airborne aeroplane in place in the sky, then presents Clara with the Doctor's confession dial. Looking to find the Doctor before his impending death, they use a pattern of technological anomalies throughout history to pinpoint the Doctor in 12th century Essex. Later that year, the peace between humans and Zygons breaks down after an aggregated front promoted by Zygon extremists. The extremists kidnap and murder the Zygon leadership, claiming to now speak on behalf of the entire race. In London, Clara Oswald is kidnapped and replaced by an extremist called Bonnie, while the 12th Doctor and Osgood travel to Turkmenistan to quell an insurgency from a local leadership chapter. Flying back to the United Kingdom, Bonnie destroys the plane carrying the Doctor, though he and Osgood are able to escape the plane in time. From stasis, Clara manipulates her psychic connection with Bonnie to lead the Doctor to a hidden location. Bonnie discovers the location of a mass psychological weapon called the Osgood Box, which allows for the ability to transform every Earthbound Zygon back into their original form. The Doctor and Bonnie converge at the location of the Osgood Box, but upon realizing that there are 2 separate boxes with unclear consequences, the Doctor convinces Bonnie and the Zygon extremists to step down and accept a peace amongst the humans. The 12th Doctor and Clara answer a distress call from Rigsy, now living in London and having woken up with an enchanted tattoo which counts down to 0. With no memory of the night before, they retrace Rigsy's steps to a trap street inhabited by alien refugees and governed by Lady Me. She reveals Rigsy as the prime suspect in the death of one of their residents, and sentenced him to death with a chronolock which upon expiration will summon a quantum shade to perform the execution. The Doctor and Clara investigate the trap street to prove Riggsy's innocence, and upon learning that the chronolock can be passed onto a willing host, Clara allows Riggsy to transfer the lock onto her, convinced the Doctor will be able to solve it in time. Discovering the victim of Riggsy's murder is still alive, and the Doctor has been led into a trap by Lady Me, Clara learns too late that the chronolock cannot be removed once transferred to a second host, and is set to be executed by the Quantum Shade. Instants before her death, she is extracted from her position by a version of the Doctor from the future, and the pair return to Gallifrey to find a solution to Clara's inevitable death. Though they are unsuccessful, and after travelling the universe in her own TARDIS with a future version of Lady Me, Clara is returned to her position before death, and ultimately killed by the Quantum Shade. Distraught by witnessing her death, the local version of the Doctor is transported into his confession dial by the local version of Lady Me on behalf of the Time Lords, who torture the Doctor in mental stasis for several billion years to learn more about the hybrid prophecy. 2016. At Christmas, the 12th Doctor lands in New York to investigate the multinational research company Harmony Shoal with a rebuilt Nardole. He crosses paths with journalist Lucy Fletcher and a now adult Grant Gordon, who poses as superhero The Ghost while doubling a secret life as Lucy's nanny. The Doctor and Nardole discover the company's plan to colonize the planet by replacing the brains of various world leaders, then vaporizing major cities while leaving their regional headquarters undisturbed. Grant reveals his identity to Lucy and helps the pair stop Harmony Shoal by halting a crashing spaceship, and the company headquarters are in turn terminated by UNIT. 2017. The 12th Doctor takes notice of canteen girl Bill Potts while lecturing at St. Luke's University in Bristol, and recruits her as his new private student. Catching the attention of a sentient alien puddle posing as her crush Heather, Bill is saved by the Doctor and the TARDIS, and the pair travel to a number of locations and times to escape Heather before Bill convinces her to leave her be. Convincing the Doctor not to wipe her memory the way Clara had done to him, Bill is allowed to remain in the TARDIS as a companion. Impacted by an economic housing crisis, Bill moves into an older house in Bristol with 5 other flatmates. With strange sounds and occurrences shifting through the house, the Doctor investigates and discovers the disappearance of several previous tenants throughout history, consumed by alien woodlice living in the house and fed by the housekeeper to preserve his mother. When the mother is confronted by the Doctor and told of a true nature in the affair, she convinces her son to release the tenants before the pair are in turn consumed by the lice and the house is destroyed. Warned by a version of himself living within a programmed simulation, the Doctor anticipates an invasion of Earth by an alien species of decrepit monks. Arriving in Temezistan, the monks demand a peaceful surrender and destroy any world leaders who promise surrender under any other guise than a loving sacrifice. Coincidentally, a deadly pathogen is accidentally created at a bioengineering lab in England, threatening to escape the lab and destroy humanity. The Doctor travels to the lab to investigate, but is unable to escape from the lab's destruction due to remaining blind after the Chasm Forge escape. Desperate to save her friend, Bill consents to the monks' invasion in return for the Doctor receiving his eyesight once again. 6 months later, the monks have rewritten and taken responsibility for human history, while a human resistance movement begins at the hands of the Doctor. They recruit Bill and invade a propaganda broadcasting station, where Bill plugs herself into the hard drive and returns human history to its original form. Humans turn on the monks, and the alien invaders are forced to retreat from Earth. Space probe Valkyrie lands on the surface of Mars and discovers a message written into rocks reading God Save the Queen, prompting the 12th Doctor, Bill, and Nardole to discover the message's origin. At St. Luke's University, the 12th Doctor and Bill argue over letting Missy prove her allegiance given a track record. Bill finally agrees to let the Doctor test Missy's change of heart on the condition that Bill doesn't end up dead. The Grand Serpent shuts down UNIT from the inside, forcing Kate Stewart into hiding after a botched suicide attempt. 2018. The 13th Doctor crash lands in Sheffield at the same time as Sim Shaw, an alien trophy hunter targeting a local crane operator after being allowed access to the planet by an unwitting Ryan Sinclair. Joined by Ryan's grandmother Grace and her husband Graham, as well as policewoman Yaz Khan, the Doctor tracks Sim Shaw to a local crane yard, where they are able to stop Sim Shaw and send him back empty-handed to his home planet, though through the process, Grace falls from a crane and dies. Later attempting to recall her TARDIS, the Doctor inadvertently transports herself and her 3 companions into empty space. Rescued separately by competing races in an intergalactic obstacle competition, the 4 arrive on the race's final planet, Desolation. Avoiding the planet's many threats en route to the finish line at the so-named Ghost Monument, they find that the titular monument is actually the TARDIS, and the Doctor attempts to return the 3 to Sheffield. The 4 arrive back in Sheffield after a brief stop in Alabama, and find the city overrun by overgrown spiders. Teaming with arachnologist Jade McIntyre, they trace the spiders back to a luxury hotel owned by American businessman Jack Robertson, who's been dumping industrial waste from his other corporations into the land surrounding the hotel. The Doctor resorts to ending the spiders' lives quickly and humanely by suffocating them to death, and the trio agree to continue their travels in the TARDIS. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham arrive in Norway, finding a boarded-up cabin inhabited by an abandoned blind girl named Hannah. Hannah explains there are monsters in the woods, and her father has disappeared. Investigating the woods, the group realizes the monster sounds are a recording coming from speakers set up outside the house, and Ryan theorizes that Hannah's father has abandoned her. Finding a portal through the mirror upstairs, the group journey into a secondary dimension where they find Hannah's father living with a copy of her deceased mother, as well as a copy of Grace, who appears before Graham. The Doctor realizes the dimension is sentient, hoping to trap outsiders permanently by luring them with lost loved ones. Knowing the link to the real world makes this new dimension temporarily unstable, the Doctor convinces everyone to return to Norway without their loved ones before the dimension appears to the Doctor in the form of a talking frog, thanking the Doctor for a brief period of compatibility before allowing her to return home as well. 2019. A piece of the Dalek from the 9th century is uncovered by archaeologists in Sheffield, attaching itself to the archaeologist named Lynn and possessing her into rebuilding its casing. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham track Lynn to a government communications headquarters, where they stop the Dalek from contacting Skaro and manage to launch the Dalek into deep space. 2020. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham are taken to MI6 to investigate the disappearance of a number of intelligence agents across the world. They target search engine mogul Daniel Barton in San Francisco, whose DNA is being slowly transformed into that of an unknown alien species. Heading to Australia to meet with hidden intelligence agent O, they are attacked by luminescent aliens who appear to be under the control of Barton. Attempting to arrest Barton aboard his private jet, they find themselves in a trap set up by the double agent O, who reveals himself as the Master. Escaping the Master's plane trap, they deduce that Barton intends to rewrite human DNA to use the species as a living storage unit for digital information, and tests his transformative technology against his own mother, killing her. The Doctor, having thwarted Barton's plan back in the 19th century, destroys his transformer and sends the alien species back to their home dimension, while the Master and Barton escape from justice. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham arrive in Gloucester in time to witness a Jadoon invasion of the city. Searching for a rogue time agent posing as the partner of tour guide Ruth Clayton, the Doctor discovers Ruth herself is the agent the Jadoon are searching for. With no memory of a past life, Ruth is taken by the Doctor to her childhood home, where the pair discover a Time Lord chameleon arch disguised as a fire alarm, which restores Ruth's memory, and she introduces herself as an incarnation of the Doctor unknown to the 13th. Traveling in Ruth's own TARDIS, they rid the planet of the extraterrestrial threat and part. Elsewhere, Jack Harkness captures Graham, believing him to be the Doctor, before relaying a message to beware the lone Cyberman. The 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory land in rural Wales, where they investigate disappearances surrounding a super-deep drilling facility. The facility is attacked from beneath by the Silurians, who have been in hibernation underground for millions of years, and finally awoken by the drill, lay claim to the Earth once again. One of the Silurians is taken captive by the humans on the surface, while the Doctor heads to the Silurian underground to negotiate terms with the Silurian leadership. After the Silurian prisoner poisons one of the surface humans and is killed in retaliation, the negotiations sour, and the two sides look to revisit the talks in a century's time. Escaping the underground from the hostile Silurian military, Rory is shot and subsequently erased from memory when he falls into the crack in time. In Sheffield, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham are all separately plagued by visions of a man in black haunting their nightmares. They are met by the 13th Doctor and Tahira, who chase off the man before following a psychic plea for help delivered to Graham. Having been reunited after tricking the Doctor, the man, Zelen, and his accomplice Rakaya wreak havoc on Earth, feeding on humanity's nightmares. Realizing Tahira's nightmares are of her own making, the Doctor lures the aliens back to 14th century Aleppo. 2021. Ryan, Yaz, and Graham confront Jack Robertson over his use of Dalek technology in police-issued riot gear. Joined by the 13th Doctor and Jack Harkness in Japan, they discover a cloning facility creating new Daleks for use by global governments, seeing through the exterior and learning of the Daleks' ultimate plan to destroy the Earth with their new army. Tricked into a collapsing TARDIS by the Doctor, the Daleks are destroyed, and after the threat dissipates, Ryan and Graham decide to leave the TARDIS for good. The 13th Doctor and Yaz arrive in Liverpool on the trail of Carvanista, a bounty hunter belonging to the Lupari species. Carvanista breaks into the house of Dan Lewis and kidnaps him before the Doctor and Yaz arrive to interrogate Carvanista about the Time Lord division. Carvanista reveals his kidnapping of Dan is to save him from the impending Flux disaster, as is his responsibility as a member of the Lupari. The four are enveloped by the Flux and separate into alternate periods of history, with Dan and Carvanista remaining in the 2021 timeline. Taking advantage of the destruction from the Flux, the Sontarans rewrite human military history from a base in the present, though this base is sabotaged by Dan and Carvanista, effectively reverting the alternate timeline. After eliminating UNIT through time manipulation, the Grand Serpent invites the Sontarans to return to Earth for a second invasion, now unopposed. Elsewhere, a station attendant named Vinder is forced to evacuate his post due to the flux, before escaping and vowing to find his lost wife Belle and their unborn child. Belle arrives on Earth at the same time as Vinder, in time to counter the invading Sontaran forces, though Vinder is captured by a passenger vessel. Dan, Yaz, and Jericho return to the present through the Williamson tunnels and team up with Kate Stewart to resist the new Sontaran invasion. Returning from outside time, the Doctor uses Belle's ship to crash into the Sontaran command and destroy them from the inside, while teaming up with Vinder from inside the passenger vessel to destroy the Flux alongside an impending Cybermen and Dalek invasion. The 13th Doctor, Dan, and Yaz arrive in Manchester and find themselves trapped in a time loop thanks to the Flux. Executed multiple times by loose Daleks in an indoor storage facility, the Doctor deduces that each time the loop resets, the time to execution shortens, and the trio work to distract the Daleks long enough to survive through midnight and escape the loop, before destroying the facility and returning to a resurrected TARDIS. 2022. The 13th Doctor, Dan, and Yaz return to Liverpool, where Dan decides to depart the TARDIS team for his own well-being. The Doctor and Yaz are summoned to London, where they meet with Kate Stewart, Tegan Jovanka, and Ace, who relay their investigation into the Master, who appears himself and invites them to a seismology conference in Naples to learn more. The Master is apprehended by unit forces, though they play into his plan as upon returning to London, he sets loose his own army of cyber warriors and is freed from imprisonment. Kate, Tegan, and Ace manage to escape unit headquarters, trap the Cybermen inside, and destroy the building, though the Master escapes. Ace travels to Bolivia by way of the TARDIS to thwart the Master's plan to destroy humanity with volcanic eruptions, and meets Graham O'Brien, then a returning Doctor, who aids the pair in destroying the Dalek army who are there to execute the Master's plan. They then use the TARDIS to materialize the cyber control planet from the 42nd century and free the hostage energy source, though the Doctor is killed by the Master in the ensuing destruction and leaves her companions behind at home before regenerating. 2025. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham investigate the sudden aggravation of bird populations across the world, which they believe to be linked with the sudden deaths and disappearances of humans nearby. Analyzing Adam, an astronaut infected with the disease which killed the aforementioned human victims, the Doctor realizes the Praxeus pathogen in question is drawn to microplastics in living bodies, making Earth the perfect feeding ground. In Madagascar, Suki, the scientist employed to help fight Praxeus, reveals herself to be an alien biologist who brought the pathogen to Earth in order to save her own species. Suki is killed by Praxeus, though the Doctor is able to synthesize her initial work on an antidote and cure Adam before releasing the antidote into the atmosphere to pacify the infection across the planet. 2049. Earth's moon is revealed to be the giant egg of an ancient alien species, which nears opening. The seismic activity causes disasters on the Earth's surface, and the 12th Doctor leaves Clara and her student Courtney Woods on the moon alongside astronaut Lundvik to make a decision on the planet's future. While humanity votes to kill the creature within the moon, Clara ultimately allows it to live, and upon hatching, the creature lays an identical egg which relieves the seismic activity on the Earth below. Traumatized by the Doctor's actions leaving her responsible for the entire planet, Clara resolves to leave the TARDIS. 2059. The 10th Doctor lands on Mars in time to witness the crew of Bowie Base 1 still in operation prior to its infamous destruction. Taken aboard the base, he confides in Captain Adelaide Brooke her and her crew's impending demise, just as an alien parasite called the Flood infestates the base's water supply and poisons all who come in contact with unfiltered water. Initially leaving the base behind, the Doctor is moved to save the remaining crew just before the base is annihilated in self-destruction to prevent the spread of the Flood to Earth. Transporting the 3 survivors back to Earth in the TARDIS, he intimidates Adelaide with his ability to change time, and to prevent the known timeline from being affected by the Doctor's actions, Adelaide kills herself in her home. 2119. The 12th Doctor and Clara land aboard an underwater mining facility in Scotland. Having recently located and salvaged a spaceship from the bottom of the surrounding lake, the crew are haunted by apparitions who hunt down and plan to execute everyone who witnesses a set of symbols within the spaceship. The Doctor heads back to the initial landing of the spacecraft, leaving Clara alone with half the crew within the base, as an apparition of the Doctor's corpse also appears. Cornered in the hangar bay with the spaceship, the ship's stasis chamber opens to reveal the Doctor, who trapped himself within to survive the Flood in 1980. He creates a hologram of his corpse to lure the remaining apparitions into the base's Faraday cage before wiping the ship's symbols from the crew's memory and destroying the apparitions. 2161. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory investigate an acid mining facility in the British Isles, where the workers utilize cloned flesh doppelgangers to assist in dangerous operations. Tiring of being horrifically killed and revived over and over, the doppelgangers attempt to overthrow their originals and overtake their lives, though the Doctor is able to pacify the revolution and encourage the workers to challenge the nature of flesh doppelgangers in a federal court. Revealing the investigation was actually to answer his suspicions about Amy, he exposes her as a doppelganger herself, before subconsciously telling the original Amy that Rory and he are on their way to rescue her. 2367. The 11th Doctor, Amy, Rory, John Riddle, and Queen Nefertiti are recruited by the Indian Space Agency to investigate a silent alien ship hurtling toward the Earth's surface. Joined accidentally by Rory's father Brian, the group discover that the ship is of Silurian origin, which carried life forms from prehistoric Earth to escape a mass extinction event. Having been hijacked during its journey and ridded of the original Silurian crew, the lead pirate Solomon found himself unable to override the autopilot in order to sell the living dinosaur cargo. The Doctor jettisons Solomon and destroys the ship, while Rory and Brian safely redirect the Silurian Ark away from Earth. 2500s. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory are transported to the Dalek Asylum to destroy the planet from the inside. Down on the planet's surface, they discover the wreck of a human ship called the Alaska, of which there is only a single survivor named Oswin. Attempting to save Oswin before destroying the planet, she is revealed to have already been converted into a Dalek, and made aware of this truth, she helps the trio escape the planet before destroying the asylum herself. The 12th Doctor and Clara are transported to the interstellar bank of Karabraxos, where a future version of the Doctor blackmails them into joining a group of hackers to break into the bank's private vaults. Realizing a solar storm is set to hit the planet and destroy the bank, they manage to free the final pair of an endangered alien species before the solar storm causes their extinction. 2600s. The 10th Doctor and Donna land on the resort planet Midnight, which is uninhabitable apart from the central luxury spa. Leaving Donna behind, the Doctor joins a tour bus to visit the planet's surface, though the tour is sabotaged by an invisible external force, which halts the bus and kills the driver. One passenger is possessed by the entity, which mimics the Doctor's speech and eventually gains the ability to prelude the Doctor's speech, then attempts to convince the other passengers to sacrifice the Doctor to the planet's surface. Seeing through the deception, the tour host sacrifices herself to destroy the entity and the possessed passenger, before the remaining guests are rescued and freed from danger. 2800s. The 12th Doctor, Bill, and Nardole answer a distress signal aboard a Mondasian colony ship to test Missy's claimed allegiance change. Learning that Bill is a human, the last of the original survivors aboard the ship shoots her to prevent an invasion of the flight deck by primitive Cybermen, who neither the Doctor nor Missy recognize. The Doctor deduces that since they are orbiting a black hole, their end of the ship is traveling significantly slower than the other, and the trio race to the bottom of the ship to save Bill as she ages far faster than they. Decades later, Bill has been living at the bottom of the ship under the care of Razor, a resident of floor 1056, who claims descent from the original crew of the ship's top. Bill learns that the ship is falling apart, having outlived its expiration date due to the nearby black hole, and finds herself in line for an experimental conversion surgery which will allow her and everyone else on floor 1056 to survive the deteriorating conditions at the bottom of the ship. Soon after Bill is converted into a Cyberman, the trio from the top arrive, learning of Bill's fate and the ship's planet of origin before Razor reveals himself as the Saxon Master. Luring his future self into allegiance with him, the Saxon Master forces the Doctor to retreat to floor 507, where he prepares the floor's residents for an invasion of technologically superior Cybermen. With Bill retaining her consciousness and choosing to fight alongside the Doctor and Nardole, they manage to destroy a number of waves of invading Cybermen, though Nardole and the floor's residents are eventually forced to retreat to floor 506. The Doctor is killed by a Cyberman and returned to the TARDIS by Bill, who is herself saved by the appearance of Heather, who returns her to her original form before taking off to see the universe. Elsewhere, Missy turns on her former self, though disgusted by his future actions, the Saxon Master attempts to permanently kill Missy and deny her next regeneration, out of fear of turning good. 3290. The 11th Doctor and Amy land aboard Starship UK, where the former quickly notices the lack of mechanical energy propelling the ship through space. Investigating, the pair discover a conspiracy by the remaining British establishment to hide the truth from a passive populace. The ship is controlled by a critically endangered star whale, tortured into submission. Amy deduces the star whale's assistance predates the conspiracy and would do the job without force. The pair, along with Queen Elizabeth X, free the whale from its torturous harness, and the ship continues on its journey without guilt. 3500s. The 12th Doctor and Bill land on the colony planet Gliese, where they discover the emoji bot hosts meant to keep the human population happy have turned on and killed the first set of settlers. Unable to stop the resident robots before the awakening of the new, larger set of settlers, the Doctor forces the humans into a collaborative peace with their hosts, despite them learning of their forebears, then reprograms the hosts to more accurately understand the residents' emotional needs. 3600s. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham investigate the headquarters of the Kablam Corporation after receiving a distress signal in a parcel. Discovering the system sent the message itself, the four learn of a plot by maintenance man Charlie, who works to destroy Kablam from the inside in retaliation for high unemployment rates throughout the galaxy, thanks to Kablam's automated systems. After refusing to surrender to the Doctor, Charlie is blown up by one of his own traps, which was rewired by the Doctor to self-destruct, and in the aftermath, Kablam pledges to increase their required human-to-automation ratio of employment. 3700s. The 12th Doctor and Clara land aboard the Leverrier space station, where they join a rescue team seeking answers for the cause of the station's sudden silence. Eluding large monsters, the Doctor discovers the presence of Morpheus pods, a technology allowing users to compress months of sleep into a single catnap. Understanding the consequences, the Doctor deduces that the monsters are actually made up of large accumulations of room built up during the accelerated sleep process, having now somehow gained a primitive sentience. The ship's lone survivor, Rasmussen, reveals himself as the mastermind behind the ship's disappearance. Attempting to return the ship to Triton and release Morpheus to further grow the population of Sandmen, though the Doctor is able to thwart his plan and send the ship hurtling to the heart of Neptune. 4000s. The 12th Doctor takes Clara to the Interstellar Orient Express for a parting trip. Finding the ship haunted by a mummy, which kills the passengers who see it, the Doctor deduces it is targeting the weakest on the train. The passengers and crew are revealed to be scientists from throughout the universe, held by an automated host to solve the mystery of the mummy. Piecing together the mummy's connection to an ancient flag artifact, the Doctor declares surrender, and the spirit of the mummy resolves to abandon the train. Knowing the automated host will not let the scientists leave on the grounds of security, the Doctor rescues the passengers and crew before destroying the train. Moved by the Doctor's heroics, Clara decides to remain in the TARDIS. 4100s. The 13th Doctor, Dan, and Yaz land aboard an interstellar passenger train in the Taraji system and rescue it from an invading army of Cybermasters, though the train's hidden cargo is successfully stolen. 4126. The 10th Doctor and Donna land on the Ood Sphere to investigate Ood Industries, which has been justifying their selling of slave servants for nearly 2 centuries. The pair discover an imprisoned organic brain, which serves as a telepathic communication link between the Ood individuals, but has been disconnected since the foundation of the Ood Sphere, causing the Ood slaves continuous, insufferable pain. The Ood rebels institute a plan to transform the head of Ood Industries into one of them, to force him to feel their pain, before the Doctor shuts down the industrial machinery on the planet and frees the Ood. 4100s. The 10th Doctor and Martha Jones land aboard a mining ship surrounding the Taraji sun, where they quickly find themselves descending into the star with just 42 minutes to live. Realizing the ship's engines have been sabotaged, the Doctor discovers members of the crew possessed by the life force of the sun, which turns out to be sentient. Seeking revenge for torture sustained by the mining crew, the sun demands its harvested parts return to its hole. Realizing she is at fault, the station's captain, Kath, sacrifices herself to save the remaining crew members, and the Doctor and Martha manage to escape the danger. 4221. The 10th Doctor and Rose land in a mining station on the planet Krop Tor, which itself stays in perpetual orbit around a nearby black hole, defying all known physics by never straying nearer nor farther from its current position. They join the crew, who are drilling to both study and potentially capture the mysterious power at the heart of the planet, but when their target depth is reached, strange things begin happening to the crew at the hands of their Ood servants and fellow crewmate Toby Zed, who are seemingly possessed by the spirit of Satan. When the drilling halts, the Doctor and crewmate Ida Scott travel into the heart of the planet, where the Doctor confronts a physical manifestation of Satan, though he realizes this creature lacks a connected soul. He pieces together the soul is seeking to escape its permanent prison aboard the body of Toby, as the remaining crew members evacuate the planet, though Rose is able to recognize Toby's possession and jettison him into the black hole. The Doctor saves the remaining crew members from their failed evacuation before returning to the TARDIS with Rose. 4300s. The 12th Doctor, Bill, and Nardole investigate a distress signal from a deep space mining station and find the place overrun by zombified crew members killed by mechanized spacesuits, which have rendered their human hosts an economic liability. Teaming with the station's survivors to escape the zombies, Bill is captured but kept alive, and in attempting to save her, the Doctor is blinded. He threatens to set the station to self-destruct, which the suits see as economically disastrous, and restore their programming to preserve the remaining human workers. 4398. The 11th Doctor, Amy, and Rory land aboard a passenger space liner crashing through an electrical field. The Doctor visits the planet below, discovering the field is a man-made phenomenon controlled by the elitist Kazran Sardik. Desperate to save the ship along with Amy and Rory, he travels through Kazran's personal timeline to rewrite history and improve his sense of empathy by way of a romance with one of Kazran's family slaves. Returning to the present, the Doctor encourages a changed Kazran to spare the space liner and save the endangered passengers. 5000s. The 12th Doctor and Clara arrive on the Aristotle, where they are tasked with researching the cause of a captured Dalek's self-destructive tendencies. Shrunken down and inserted into the Dalek casing, the Doctor discovers a broken power cell poisoning the Dalek's typically xenophobic attitudes. Fixing the cell, the Dalek turns on the Doctor and the crew of the Aristotle, though using a psychic link, the Doctor convinces the Dalek to change his mind about non-Dalek species and saves the Aristotle. The 11th Doctor and Amy rescue River Song from the Byzantium prior to its crashing into Alpha Metraxis. Joining a crew of salvagers from the Church of the Papal Mainframe, they investigate the wreck for traces of a weeping angel. Upon realizing the planet is infested with weakened angels, the Doctor deduces the ship was intentionally crashed to rescue the trapped angels, and the group find themselves surrounded by a resuscitated angel army. Aboard the Byzantium, the Doctor and River attempt to lead the others to the ship's flight deck, though the others are either killed by the angels or erased by the crack in time, which appears within the ship. Amy is able to reach the Doctor and River, while the Doctor tricks the angels into the crack in time, saving them from further danger. River is returned to her imprisonment at Stormcage Prison, and the Doctor and Amy return to Earth. The 10th Doctor, Rose, and Mickey land aboard an abandoned spaceship, where they discover a window through time into the year 1727. The Doctor disappears for a brief period before returning with knowledge of the ship's original occupants, clockwork robots intent on repairing the ship with the body parts of the Madame de Pompadour. The trio discover windows to other points in her life, and the Doctor visits and rescues her throughout her timeline before failing to return one last time before she dies. Heartbroken, the Doctor returns to the TARDIS with Rose and Mickey. The 10th Doctor and Donna are summoned to a planet-sized library by River Song, who the Doctor has not yet met. The three, along with an expeditionary team from the planet's ownership, investigate the disappearance of every individual in the library a century prior. They discover the planet's books were made from the trees native to the Vashta Nerada, an invisible predatory species which hide in darkness. After Donna is saved by the planet's computer core to avoid danger, the Doctor realizes the planet must have done this before, and upon reaching a deal with the Vashta Nerada, is able to resuscitate the saved life forms before abandoning the planet. Needing to stabilize the core to make this possible, River Song sacrifices herself and is uploaded to a digital eternity by the Doctor. 5140. While studying the Doctor's movements at Lunar University, River Song is once again kidnapped by the Kavarian chapter of the Church of the Papal Mainframe, who activate her programming and entrap her in the Apollo astronaut suit to be transported back in time and kill the Doctor. 5145. River Song receives a call at Stormcage Prison from Winston Churchill regarding where to find the Van Gogh painting of the TARDIS, knowing she will understand its meaning. She escapes by seducing a guard, then travels to Starship UK, where she is rewarded access to the work by Queen Elizabeth X. She then visits Dorian Maldovar, who offers to sell River the vortex manipulator of the recently decapitated Jack Harkness. She poisons Dorian's wine and offers an antidote to offset the price of the manipulator. 5150. The 11th Doctor and Rory track Amy to the Demon's Run asteroid base, where she is imprisoned by the Kavarian chapter of the Church of the Papal Mainframe, prior to giving birth to Melody Pond, who they intend to indoctrinate into killing the Doctor. The duo are joined in their rescue by River Song, the Paternoster Gang, Dorian Maldovar, and the crew of the Fancy, seemingly defeating the Church before being ambushed by the Headless Monks, and the baby Melody is revealed to be a flesh doppelganger. Vowing to find and protect Melody, the Doctor heads off in the TARDIS, while River reveals herself to be the future version of Amy and Rory's daughter. 5343. The 12th Doctor arrives on the planet Menderax Delora and is incorrectly identified as the surgeon hired to extract the Halassi Androvar diamond from the head of the dying King Hydroflax. The King is revealed to be married to River Song, who is unaware of the Doctor's new set of regenerations and therefore does not recognize his current incarnation. Escaping the body of the cybernetic king, the TARDIS is forced to land on a nearby luxury starship, where River attempts to sell the diamond to a prearranged buyer. The buyer reveals himself and the surrounding passengers to be deeply devoted to the king, and upon realizing the presence of the king aboard the ship and the nature of River's possession of the diamond, turn on River and the Doctor, who reveals his identity. Using a scheduled meteor strike to aid in their escape, they escape in the TARDIS while the ship crash lands into the planet Beryllium below. Surveying the wreckage, the Doctor gives the diamond to a witness on the condition that a restaurant be built with views of the planet's legendary singing towers. 5345. Opening their Christmas gift prematurely, the Arwell kids are transported to a forested planet several millennia in their future, where they discover the planet scheduled for harvesting by extraterrestrial terraformers. Followed by Madge and the Doctor, the former is identified by the local indigenous species as strong enough to wield the life forces of the forest and crown her their queen, and she pilots an escape ship back home to Earth, which inadvertently guides her husband home from being lost over Europe. 5347. 4 years after establishing the restaurant and making Christmas reservations, the 12th Doctor gifts River Song their final date together looking onto the singing towers of Beryllium for the following 2.5 decades. 5425. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham land on the planet Ranskor Avkolos to investigate a series of distress signals received by the TARDIS. They find an amnesiac pilot named Paltraki, who they discover serves under the influence of Sim Shaw, who failed to return home after being captured by the Doctor in 2018. Having used his technology to manipulate a prophecy by the local species into revering him as a god, Sim Shaw intends to use the power of the planet's natives to take revenge on the Earth. The Doctor convinces the natives of Sim Shaw's true nature before Graham and Ryan confront Sim Shaw about Grace's death before trapping him in an eternal torture chamber. 6012. The 10th Doctor, Martha and Donna land on the planet Messaline, where they are quickly catalogued by a military force, and the Doctor is cloned to create a genetic identical he names Jenny. When Martha is separated from the group and taken hostage by the opposing Hath species, she sympathizes with the Hath initiative, and both sides separately travel to find a weapon of mass destruction called the Source. At the Source, the two sides reconvene, and the Doctor deduces that conflict is being tainted by generational myths and seeks to pacify the war. The human General Cobb attempts to shoot the Doctor before he can terraform the planet, but Jenny sacrifices herself before regenerating and setting off separately from the TARDIS trio. 6600s. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham are rescued by the medical ship Saranga after a ground mine explosion. Discovering the ship invaded by a small ravenous alien called a Pating, which begins eating and destroying the hull, the four work together alongside the ship's crew to lure the creature back into space before passenger Eve sacrifices herself to manually pilot the ship to a nearby station for repairs. 8400s. The 10th Doctor and Donna arrive on Shan Shen, where the latter is tricked into a fortune-teller's shop and forced to relive moments of her past and change them, while a parasite feeds off the resultant time energy. With the help of Rose Tyler, she is eventually able to correct the alternate timeline and destroy the parasite, before being rescued from the shop by the Doctor, having now learned of an impending universal threat. 200,000. The 9th Doctor, Rose, and Adam land aboard Satellite 5, a news platform responsible for the entire stream of collective media to the Earth below. Realizing the technology of the station is anachronistically inconsistent with what it should be, the Doctor investigates the mysterious Floor 500, where the highest-rated conduits of human news are invited and never seen again. He and Rose discover the creature responsible for the misinformation campaign stalling human development, and on Floor 500, destroy those with power over the station to allow humanity to accelerate back to its technological evolution. Meanwhile, Adam is implanted with information ports, allowing his brain to store significant amounts of learned data. Intending to accelerate human technology back in their own time, Adam's plan is discovered by the Doctor, who returns him home and ousts him from traveling in the TARDIS again. 200,100. The 9th Doctor, Rose, and Jack Harkness wake in futuristic versions of classic Earth game shows, which they quickly discover result in deadly consequences for the participants. The Doctor and Jack escape their respective imprisonments and discover themselves on Satellite 5, 100 years after the Doctor rescued the station and humanity from the Jagrafess. They fail to rescue Rose, as she is disintegrated by a robotic version of Anne Robinson on the weakest link, though the Doctor holds out hope of Rose's survival as he and Jack take control of the station. The Doctor learns that in the absence of news after his interference a century prior, an information drain resulted in a new Dark Age, and reality television was instituted to fill the void. Jack deduces that Rose is still alive in the form of a last-second transport, and they find her held captive by the Dalek Emperor, who survived the Time War and revived the Dalek race using human DNA. The Doctor saves Rose and begins construction of a Delta Wave, a lethal radiation force which will destroy all of Earth and Satellite 5, but for the sake of again eliminating the Daleks. He sends Rose home for her safety, then the Daleks invade and kill nearly all aboard the station, including Jack. Rose returns following the Bad Wolf trail and uses the power of the TARDIS to destroy the Daleks, immortalize Jack, and save the Doctor before he himself sacrifices his current regeneration to save Rose. Killed by the power of the TARDIS, the 9th Doctor regenerates into the 10th. 2 billion years in the future. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, Graham, and Tahira land aboard a space station to answer a plea for help received physically by Graham. They find the station belonging to Zelen, the man in black from the Nightmares in the 21st Century, who is keeping the woman from Graham's vision locked in an internal prison. They free the woman, who soon reveals herself as the partner of Zelen, who is placed in the trap by a revolting local population to separate the godlike powers possessed between the two aliens. Now free to wreak havoc, the pair return to the 21st century to feed upon the nightmares of the Doctor's friends and family. 4 billion years in the future. The 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham are transported to Tranquility Spa on the orphan planet 55, where they find the spa under attack from exterior locals called Dregs. Escaping the resort, they discover Orphan 55 to be a potential future version of Earth, having been destroyed by climate change and nuclear fallout, with the Dregs existing as future evolutions of humanity after the disaster. Sometime before the year 5 billion, the 10th Doctor returns Lady Cassandra in the body of Chip to see her former self at a party for the Ambassador of Thrace. She approaches her past self and tells her for the final time that she is beautiful, before dying in her own arms. 5 billion. The 9th Doctor and Rose land aboard Platform 1, an observation satellite orbiting the Earth on the day of its scheduled destruction. They join a handful of other selected guests, including the Face of Bo, to watch Earth's immolation by the expanding sun, though events take a tragic turn aboard the satellite when Lady Cassandra O'Brien, the last living pure human in the universe, activates a plan to sabotage the platform's shields and kill all on board, inflating her net worth by way of insider trading against the deceased guests' holding companies. The plan is thwarted by the Doctor, and Cassandra's skin form is destroyed when she dries out and explodes. 23 years later, the 10th Doctor and Rose arrive on New Earth, a planet settled by humanity in memoriam of their original home. Near the city of New York, they discover a hospital capable of curing every disease, which the Doctor finds suspicious. He begins investigating the Sisters of Plentitude, who run the hospital, and finds that they have been growing human clones as test subjects to study and cure disease. But his plan to shut down the hospital is interrupted by Lady Cassandra, who survived the ordeal aboard Platform 1 and is kept alive by her clone slave Chip. She inhabits the bodies of both the Doctor and Rose intermittently, before the Doctor forces her to inhabit Chip, while he and Rose save the hospital and cure the escaped clones. Chip's life force is unable to permanently sustain Cassandra's consciousness, so for her dying wish, the Doctor grants her a trip back to meet her old self. 30 years past this, the 10th Doctor and Martha Jones land on New Earth and find the planet virtually abandoned. Nearly all citizens have been trapped in eternal gridlock in the underground motorway. Martha is kidnapped by a desperate couple looking to fast-track the motorway by an exclusive carpool lane, though this method is shrouded in superstition, seemingly being haunted. Tracking Martha down with the help of other trapped motorists, the Doctor is transported to the Senate building of New York, where he is reunited with the face of Bo. He learns that the motorway was sealed to save those in transit from a deadly plague, which destroyed civilization near instantaneously. He decides to open the motorway now that the plague has subsided, knowing this will bring an end to the face of Bo, who uses his life force to keep the system in stasis. Before dying, the face of Bo informs the Doctor that he is not alone in the universe, and then the residents of the motorway are freed, and the Doctor is reunited with Martha. 100 trillion years in the future. The 10th Doctor and Martha arrive on the planet Malcasaro after the TARDIS is hijacked from the outside by Jack Harkness at Cardiff. They escape an attack by predatory humans called Futurekind, before finding refuge in a human colony housed in a nearby missile silo. Learning the Doctor is a scientist, he is employed by Shipmaster Professor Yana to assist in fixing the stationary rocket within the silo that the humans hope will take them to a mythical utopia. The Doctor is successful in starting the rocket, but the launch is sabotaged by the Futurekind. In the ensuing commotion, Professor Yana is exposed to a Time Lord consciousness from his pocket watch and reveals himself to be the Master. Threatening to destroy the rocket himself, he is shot by his assistant before regenerating into Harold Saxon. Locking himself inside the TARDIS, he steals the ship and leaves the Doctor, Jack, and Martha behind, though the Doctor is able to trap the TARDIS's window of travel, and the trio jump back in time with Jack's vortex manipulator. The end of the universe. The 12th Doctor and Clara arrive at the end of time alongside Orson Pink, where the Doctor attempts to snuff out the perfect hiding entity. Knocked unconscious by the entity, he is rescued by Clara, who unintentionally takes them back to Gallifrey in the TARDIS. At the very end of time, the 12th Doctor returns to consult with Lady Me about the rules surrounding Clara's inevitable death. Realizing the Doctor plans to wipe her memory to keep her safe, Clara reverses his mind-wiping device, resulting in him losing his memory of her. And with that, we have reached the end of Doctor Who. What did I leave out that you thought I should have included? Which of my speculated dates do you believe should be placed elsewhere? Do you simply want to debate me for fun about certain timelines because you have nothing better to do? Leave a comment down below and let me know what I should fix for the next update. This is the longest scripted video I've ever made at nearly 21,000 words and 60 pages of scripted dialogue. It took me over 3 months of writing and editing, so if you'd like to support the work that I do here on the channel so I can back off my full-time work and pump out more things like this on YouTube, please do like, share, and subscribe, or check out the Patreon page if you do feel so inclined. I also do want to mention before this video is over that I love all Doctor Who, but in making this video and analyzing the different plots, developments, and retcons of the series, it really puts into perspective the quality of some of these stories. If you want to know my completely unbiased, objectively definitive, totally non-negotiable rankings of every Doctor Who episode since the 2005 revival, I'll put a link to a series of upcoming videos at the end of this video once those are live on the channel. Thank you to everyone who supports me in what I do. We'll see you in a few months for the 60th anniversary update. But until then, hope to see you very, very soon.